Good morning, folks. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels, and we're going back to that horrible world known as the JRC. But before we do, trigger warning. What we are about to be read is one of the most horrible, written by one of the most horrible human beings to ever exist, in my opinion. What we are about to read is coming from the person who created the GED device and started this school of horrors, Matthew Israel himself. You're going to hear gaslighting. You're going to hear abuse apologencia. You're going to hear token arguments that fall flat in the year of 2022, and yes, even in the world of 2010 from which this comes. You're going to hear someone blatantly defend the horrors and the abuse that these students are put through every day. Okay? This is coming from a human being that I think belongs behind bars, who probably could use some psychiatric treatment himself. We're going to be diving into the deranged mind of Matthew Israel with these next few pages. So just kind of prep yourself. I'm trying to prepare myself to not fly into a complete and utter mind-numbing rage. And I haven't even started yet. Okay? I'm going to try to keep calm and rip holes through his arguments like Swiss cheese. But just bear with me and a little bit of patience, all right? Okay. Let me get some of this here. In my opinion, Matthew Israel is just as guilty for the beginning of the teen industry, particularly the troubled teen industry in regards with people with disabilities. This is the granddaddy of them all. So just be prepared, all right? Now we'll move on. In the description box, you're going to see the link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It is written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900, count them, over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's quote-unquote behavioral modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much they have threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they do not remove it from the website. NeuroClastic has refused, so you know the drill. Please, folks, read that article and share on all your social media. We also have linked NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding in case the JRC has the balls to see through with their threat. We also got the pertinent links to the Agape boarding school situation. Agape boarding school is a Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that has and pending over 21 allegations and civil lawsuits leveled against it, with Department of Social Services substantiated claims, child abuse, sexual abuse, sodomy, psychological and emotional abuse, starvation, and child trafficking, and that's just for starters. We've had one staff member, a former staff member, arrested by the FBI. We had another, a doctor, who's still on the premises with full access to the kids that are left, who is up on multiple substantiated claims of sodomy and sexual abuse of the children there. He is facing prison time, and he's still there with full access to the kids. We have an attorney general too busy kissing Trump's ass and toting mega talking points to do his damn job and use the authority of his office that we gave to him back in 2001. So, folks, we need these people to feel the heat, particularly since nobody in my state seems to give a damn about anything other than Trump bullshit. So, Share all of these articles we've gone over so far on all your social media. Don't forget to share and sign the change.org Shed Agape boarding school petition right there in the description box. Share all over your social media, all right? We also got the pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign, including Autistic Hoya's massive archive on the subject, the templates, and the ever-present self-explanatory change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. When we discuss the JRC, folks, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please use your headphones. Now, this is especially pertinent since we're going to go over Matthew Israel's insanity. This channel is marked not for kids for a reason. We use profanity and we talk about dark subjects. If your child is 16 and under and they are watching this channel, parental supervision is advised. It is 5:23 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday, which means it's stupid o'clock, folks, and I have not had my second dose of caffeine. I probably should have, considering. So if I stumble over my words, apologies in advance, all right? And I do apologize for any crass words I'm getting ready to use, because we all know with Matthew Israel, nothing on this planet fires me up like this evil bastard here. So let's get into it, okay? Behavioral skin shock saves individuals with severe behavioral disorders from a life of seclusion, restraint, and/or warehousing, as well as the ravages of psychotropic medication. Reply to the MDRI appeal to the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture. Here we go. Let's break into it. I'm just going to start with the title here. I'm just going to start with the fucking title. These people are some of the most arrogant, self-righteous sons of bitches I've ever come across. I don't know if they believe their own lies or not, but this idea that torture saved his lives is one of the most asinine and insane concepts I've come across when it comes to treatment, and I've seen some insanity, folks. I've seen people defend ABA and then tell the parent how they must first break the child. But Matthew Israel, he takes the motherfucking cake here. He wins the most insane award, okay? This concept, this idea that he has in his pseudoscience that torture saves lives is insanity. And I do think he truly believes it. He is one of those guys, any means necessary. If I have to torture the kid to make them stop their weird behaviors, then that's what he's going to do. Because he doesn't care how he gets the behavior he wants. He doesn't care how it affects the person with a disability. He doesn't care if he has psychologically traumatized that kid and set him up for being a victim that is at the mercy of predators for the rest of their lives. All he cares about is, does it keep them from doing the behaviors he wants them to stop? He doesn't even care if it works long term. He's going to tell you, but they stopped their self-injurious behaviors and they're not acting up anymore, and that means they're happy. It's the stupidest argument I've ever come across in my goddamn life. That's like a person who's abusing children saying punching my kid in the face makes them happy. That is your argument. This is the level of stupidity we're dealing with. To compare it in a way that makes more logical sense. That's like an abusive parent saying, by punching my kid in the fucking face full force, it makes them happier and more free from acting up. Doesn't work, does it? Makes no sense, right? And then they want to use these asinine attempts. They always use these straw man arguments, don't they? We've seen them do it before. These straw man arguments where they say, but it's going to save them from seclusion and restraint. So your answer to the medical model sins is to sin against us harder? Is that what I'm hearing here? You have psychiatric hospitals. Hell, the whole medical model that is built to deal with nothing but the behaviors. They do absolutely nothing to try and find out what's causing the behaviors to deal with the root issue. All it is about is hammering and hammering and hammering on us autistics to force us to square pegs to fit into a round hole. And if we chip some things and we break off some parts to do it, well, that's just a part of it according to the medical model. These people will use the sins of the psychiatric hospitals to tow themselves as righteous, but it doesn't work. How is it that you will condemn them for seclusion and restraint and or warehousing or psychotropic medication making people comatose, and then tout torture as a better solution? Wouldn't a better solution be studying what is at the very root of these issues? In fact, with pharmacology, one of the biggest things that works in medicine, I know this because I had a very open repertoire with my psychologist and psychiatrist, is to talk to your doctor. Talk to your doctor. Don't just accept, parents, hear me on this. Don't just accept the medicine as is, okay? You can't do that. If your child is taking a medication and it is not working, the worst thing you can do is keep your mouth shut or keep upping the dosage. You need to get specific with your doctors when you talk about the issues your kid is having on a particular medication, or it's just going to keep failing, and eventually you're going to turn them comatose. For lack of a better term, ride your doctor's ass. Like he's your bitch and he owes you money. I hate to put it that way, but that's kind of how you have to be. Okay? Matthew Israel doesn't want to realize that even in 2010, pharmacology has evolved immensely since the goddamn 70s when he first started this argument. It doesn't quite work, does it? And by the way, you ask anyone, neurotypical or autistic alike, would they prefer to be drugged to the gills or to systematically have every single human right stripped of us and be tortured? We're going to take the medication every goddamn time. Every goddamn time. And the fact that this guy has the balls to tell a specialist on torture, the UN specialist repertoire on torture, that he doesn't know his own job and he doesn't know what he's seeing. He's not an expert on people with disabilities. He doesn't know how severe these disabilities are. Dude, shut up. Shut the fuck up. This dude does nothing but study torture and its psychological effects on the people who go under it. He knows what torture looks like. Your justifications for your insanity is not going to make it not torture. Okay? The balls on these people. The absolute balls on these people. All right, we're going to read one paragraph. God, send help. Introduction. Oh God, the introduction. Modern behavioral psychology has developed a number of effective treatments for major problem behaviors of special needs children and young adults. Here the fuck we go. Anytime they start with special needs children and young adults, when they start using that terminology, I already know it's bullshit. These are individuals who will tell us they know better, will tell us advocates who actually have the disorder to sit down, shut up, we don't know what we're talking about. We're not the real experts here. Yeah. Fuck off. Fuck all the way off, Mr. Israel. I am pushing 40. I'm what they call an ancient autistic. I got damn near 40 years of experience, lived experience. My life, as well as those of my friends, yes, Dr. Israel, even those your colleagues would consider severe, puts the lie to your bullshit. All right? You're talking to a girl who not only worked in the field but has lived in assisted living herself. In a program built on person-centered planning. Remember they told you there's no data? I went into assisted living in 2004. 2004, right after I graduated high school. The whole system that was a part of that assisted living program was person-centered planning. All of it. Some of those people that were in those apartments were people with quote unquote severe autism or severe problem behaviors. The same terms that the troubled teen industry like to use, huh? To excuse their insanity. Remember when I told you Matthew Israel's the granddaddy of this bullshit? This is what I'm talking about, agape advocates. This is what I'm talking about. Yeah. Let's move on. Let's not move on. Not quite yet. That particular assisted living program has turned out more people to live successful lives out on their own than anything else I've actually managed to come across. At all. At all. And why? Because the person with the disability is the person who's guiding all the treatment. Yes, some of us will bring our parents in. I did. I did that because I knew there were things that I was going to miss, and I wanted my mom to be there to kind of bring things up that I wouldn't think of. Because usually when she would bring them up, it's things that I'd be like, oh yeah, yes, I do need help with that, what she said. But I controlled it. I was in control of my own treatment and my own program. Renee, the quote-unquote severe autistic, was in control of her own treatment and program. We had a few others with severe behavioral problems, also in control of their own treatment. And it worked. Because logic was used. Issues were talked about. What might have triggered them was worked on. Reasonable accommodations provided. Logic, right? It's called talking and not assuming that you know every goddamn thing. Yes, we can't have that though now, can't we? Moving on. These treatment involve administering rewards for desired behaviors and corrective consequences, also known as adversives for undesired behaviors. Oh, for fuck's sake. In 2010, the concept of adversives was already controversial and old. Okay? He is bringing up shit from back in the goddamn 80s. By the time the 90s hit, the concept of adversives in treatment was already rejected by the majority of those in psychology and psychiatry. I noticed for a fact because they didn't try that shit with me, nor any of my disabled peers that I went to public school with. So right away, he's giving you outdated information. Way outdated information. Yes, back then in 2010, ABA was still huge. But ABA by this time had removed the concept of adversives from the whole ABA thing. It's still abusive as fuck, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong and don't get it twisted. But the concept of punishment had been stricken from ABA by the 90s, talking late 90s, early 2000s. But let's see what more lies he wants to do. Some well-intentioned but misguided anti-adversive advocates object to the use of certain types of aversives, such as skin shock versus used by Judge Rotenberg Educational Center. I love how he says this, and we're going to end on this. Misguided. You just don't understand. It's helping them. All you're doing is replacing one injury for another, which kind of defeats the purpose, doesn't it? Riddle me this, Batman. And I know I've asked this before. If a person is self-harming himself, how does harming him for him help? If someone is very dedicated to their self-injurious behavior, and they no longer have the ability to do so, might they act up possibly on purpose as a means of self-harm by proxy? Kind of like suicide by cop? Think about it. If someone is self-injurious, but now they have that removed from them, and they have that urge to self-harm, why wouldn't they act up so that they can self-harm by proxy? This is something they never seem to cover here. This is a concept that the JRC can't seem to wrap their brains around. Kind of like with cutters. Some of us, self-harm is used as a stress release, right? You've heard it from people who cut, right? Replace the internal pain with an exterior pain. There's a whole psychology behind it. Well, some autistics, and I had issues with this when I was much younger, have similar things. Now, if you are in that internal pain, that psychological pain where it comes for sensory or what have you, and you already have that urge, wouldn't it make sense that you would then act up so you would force them to harm you for you? That's the major hole in their program that the JRC never addresses. That's the major hole in the whole entire program that some of us are not even really comfortable talking about. Because these shocks just treat the behaviors. They're not treating the triggers. You're going to find some of those students, I'm not saying all, but a few, that are going to fall into those cracks. But the JRC are so fucking full of themselves, they can't understand this concept that they could be being played. You know what I'm saying? That should cancel out their entire idea right there. Right there. Playing devil's advocate here. Saying what they're saying is true. Do they not see that? And let's talk about the other students, the 99% of them that they put on these shock devices. People who self-injure during meltdown in particular. That was what I did. A lot of it had to do with when I was inside meltdown. It's this concept that still to this day, the medical model and people like the JRC don't understand what's going on during these meltdowns. They still compare them to a toddler throwing a temper tantrum. They don't understand. And they're not trying to understand. We advocates have told them for more years than we care to count, and we're tired, folks. We're real tired. The different things that go into play when a meltdown happens. It is a person who's been completely overwhelmed emotionally, psychologically, sensory-wise, overwhelmed, and kind of like a neurotypical person, though not to the same level, we snap. It's not about attention. We're not trying to get some results. It's a snap, folks. It is a moment of explosion after being overwhelmed. During these meltdowns, we do have a tendency, some of us, to not just destroy all the inanimate objects around us. This is why I call those fucking AH supporters ableist bastards, because that video where Depp is obviously having a meltdown. I know what a meltdown looks like. I know that people with ADHD have them the same as people with autism. I know what they look like because I've had them. I've been told what I look like when I'm going through that. And that's another subject. Just don't get me started on it, or I will harp and get all kinds of mad. It's an ableist world out there, folks. But to get to my point, it's not a temper tantrum. We're not trying to get attention. We're not trying to manipulate anyone or anything. We're not trying to get a certain outcome. We are just snapping. Snapping. Much like a neurotypical does, but turn it to about 11. Okay? How do you treat this meltdown? And don't just call it behaviors, JRC. There's a lot more going on there than just behaviors. Okay? What triggers the meltdowns? It's different every time, mind you. Same as what makes a neurotypical person snap is different every time. But the best treatment is not this ABA bullshit. It's finding out what is the root cause or causes. A lot of the time it's multiple. And then you have that one thing that pops up that snaps the camel's back. Work on the root issue or issues and go from there. It's real simple. It's why person-centered planning works. And ABA, and particularly this ancient form of ABA, will never work. It's built on the fallacies that were created like God in the 40s. You know, back when they thought autistics like me didn't exist. Yeah, those folks. And they're still using it in 2022, in 2010. Outdated shit. Remember when they used their supporting articles to back up their arguments, and we're talking a good majority of them are over 40 years old? All the rest of supporting material all came out of the JRC? Yeah, that's what we're talking about here. All their arguments fall flat, folks. Their treatment is built on insanity. It's based off old lies. Okay? But these people are so arrogant and so bigoted that they're going to keep insisting that it's true, even when, like, hell, even 30 years about tending to their insanity, there's been data that shows the opposite. Why hasn't the JRC evolved with the times? Why are they insisting on this barbaric treatment? And why do they continue to never address any of the elephants in the room? And with these people, there's multiple. We're going to close out on that. We don't get very many reviews on this channel, especially on this subject. And a few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit that like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time. And as always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Bye-bye, folks.